Grumpy Folk Tales presents The Alley of Secrets. Tola, a determined young woman in Lagos, unknowingly becomes the target of a dangerous criminal network when she uncovers a USB containing explosive secrets. The story begins with mysterious threats, shadowy figures, and a tense rooftop chase that forces Tola and her ally, Chike, to navigate a web of deception, betrayal, and danger. As they try to secure the USB, they face relentless pursuit from Obinna, a ruthless gangster, and later, his older brother Ize, a more cunning and powerful mastermind. Each chapter escalates the tension, with rooftop escapes, close encounters, and violent confrontations testing Tola and Chike's courage, intelligence, and trust in each other. Despite narrowly escaping multiple life-threatening situations including ambushes, masked intruders, and high-stakes chases, they gradually expose pieces of the criminal network while keeping the USB safe. Part 1 culminates in a climactic warehouse showdown, where Tola faces the masked mastermind, secures the USB, and helps bring down Obinna's gang. Although the immediate threat is neutralized, the story ends with a chilling hint that a larger, more dangerous network still exists, setting the stage for future confrontations. Part 1 is a suspense-filled, action-packed journey of courage, strategy, and survival against insurmountable odds. Tola's night had started like any other rushing home from work through the rain-soaked streets of Lagos. Her mind was heavy with deadlines, but nothing could prepare her for what awaited. As she turned into the narrow alley near her apartment, she froze. A man lay lifeless on the ground, a dark stain spreading across his shirt. Shadows danced as figures whispered violently over him. Tola's heart pounded. She tried to step back quietly, but a boot slipped on the wet pavement. A voice hissed, "Did you see anything?" Her eyes widened. Two masked men were now staring directly at her. Fear paralyzed her, but she knew she had to act. She ran, splashing through puddles, heart hammering with every step. Behind her, footsteps echoed, growing closer. When she finally reached the streetlights, panting, she glanced back, and the alley was empty. Or so it seemed. That night, Tola vowed she would report what she saw, but would anyone believe her? The danger was only beginning. Someone had followed her home, and Tola didn't notice the shadow watching from the corner of the street. Tola slammed her apartment door shut, trembling. She leaned against it, trying to catch her breath, but the image of the man's lifeless eyes burned into her mind. She dialed the police number, her hands shaking. "Yes, I saw a murder," she stammered. Silence followed, then a polite, dismissive voice. "Ma'am, are you sure? People make mistakes, sometimes." Frustrated, Tola repeated every detail. The alley, the blood, the two masked men, but the officer, Inspector Ade, remained unconvinced. "We'll send someone to check, but don't get your hopes up." Her stomach sank. Not only was she terrified, but now she felt utterly alone. She called Ada, her best friend. "You won't believe what I saw tonight," she cried. But Ada laughed nervously. "Tola, are you joking? Are you sure you're okay?" Tola's chest tightened. How could anyone not believe her? She remembered the shadow at the alley's edge, and a chill ran down her spine. Someone had been following her, watching. When she peeked out the window, a figure slipped into the darkness across the street. Someone was waiting, and Tola realized her nightmare was far from over. Tola pressed her back against the wall, eyes glued to the street. The shadowy figure lingered too long, then disappeared into the night. Her pulse raced. She knew this was no random passerby. Someone was watching, waiting for the right moment. The next morning, Tola tried to continue her routine, but every creak of her apartment and every footstep outside made her heart hammer. She received a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging or you'll regret it." Panic surged through her. Who could have known she saw the murder? Her first instinct was to call the police again, but the memory of Inspector Ade's dismissive tone froze her. She didn't know whom to trust. Every shadow outside her window felt like a threat. Determined not to give in, she decided she needed proof. She retraced her steps to the alley, hoping to find something the police had overlooked. The alley was eerily quiet, puddles reflecting the dim streetlights. A glint caught her eye, a small piece of fabric snagged on a metal fence. She crouched to examine it. Suddenly, a hand clamped over her mouth from behind, and Tola was pulled into the darkness. Tola struggled against the hand pressing over her mouth, but the grip was iron strong. Panic clawed at her chest as she was dragged into a shadowed doorway. Her mind raced. Was this one of the masked men from the alley, or someone else entirely? The figure finally released her, shoving her roughly to the ground. She gasped for air, her eyes straining to make out the person's face. A man, mid-30s, dressed in dark clothes, stared down at her. His eyes were sharp, calculating, and his voice was low and menacing. "You shouldn't have come back here," he said. Tola's instinct screamed at her to run, but the alley behind them was dark and empty. She felt cornered, helpless. "Who are you? What do you want?" she demanded, her voice trembling. He smiled, a cold, unnerving smile. "Let's just say, I know what you saw, and if you talk, it won't end well for you or anyone you care about." Tola's stomach churned. She realized the danger she had walked into was far deeper than she had imagined. Cliffhanger. Before she could respond, he turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind a single, folded note on the wet pavement. Tola's hands shook as she picked up the folded note. The paper was damp from the rain, and the ink smeared slightly. She unfolded it carefully, reading the chilling message. "Stop looking, or you'll be next. Trust no one." Her heart raced. Every shadow around the alley now seemed menacing. Who had left this? Was it one of the masked men, or someone far more dangerous? The thought that her life could be in danger made her shiver. Determined not to be intimidated, she stuffed the note into her bag and ran home, glancing over her shoulder at every turn. Once inside, she locked all the doors and windows. But the fear clung to her like a second skin. She tried calling Ada for support, but no one answered. Her phone buzzed instead with another anonymous text. "We're watching. One wrong move, and it's over." Tola knew she couldn't go to the police. They wouldn't believe her. And even if they did, she might already be marked. She needed help. But from whom? And how could she stay one step ahead of someone who knew every move she made? Cliffhanger. That night, she heard a faint scratching at her window, as if someone or something was trying to get in. Tola froze, staring at the faint shadows dancing across her bedroom wall. The scratching at the window grew louder, deliberate. Her pulse hammered in her ears as she clutched a heavy lamp, ready to defend herself. The curtains rustled. She took a deep breath and flung them open. Nothing, just the empty street below. A sigh of relief escaped her lips, but it was short-lived. On the windowsill, she noticed a small envelope she hadn't seen before. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. Inside was a single photo, the alley from the night of the murder. But in the corner of the photo, partially obscured, was a shadowy figure, someone she recognized, or thought she did. Suddenly, her phone buzzed violently. Another message. "You're too close. Stop now, or it gets worse." Tola's stomach sank. Someone was trying to scare her off, but why? Was it the killer, an accomplice, or someone else entirely? She realized she had no allies, no one to trust. That night, a soft knock came at her door. A voice whispered her name, and it was someone she never expected. Tola's heart thudded painfully in her chest as she approached the door. The whispering voice called her name again, softer this time, almost pleading. She hesitated, glancing over her shoulder at the darkened room, debating whether to open it. Summoning courage, she slowly turned the knob. Standing there was a man in his early 30s, drenched from the rain, his eyes sharp but not menacing. "Tola," he said calmly. "My name is Chike. I know what's happening, and I can help you." Tola froze. Who sent you? Are you one of them?" Chike shook his head. "No, I'm not your enemy, but you're in deeper danger than you realize. You witnessed something far bigger than a simple murder. You need protection and answers. Tola's mind raced. Could she trust him? Her instincts screamed caution, yet the relief of having someone knowledgeable about the danger before her was undeniable. Before she could respond, Chike handed her a small USB drive. Everything you need is on here, but be careful. They're watching every move you make. As Tola took the USB, a sudden loud crash echoed from her living room. Someone or something had broken in. Tola's breath caught as she spun toward the living room. A shadow darted across the floor, knocking over a lamp. Her hands shook as she gripped the USB drive like a lifeline. "Who's there?" she called, her voice trembling but firm. A low chuckle replied, sending chills down her spine. "You shouldn't have meddled," a deep voice growled. Suddenly, the intruder stepped into the dim light, a tall figure dressed in black, face obscured. Tola's heart raced. She backed toward the bedroom, searching desperately for anything to defend herself. Chike, sensing the danger, lunged from behind the door, tackling the intruder. A struggle ensued, and Tola watched in horror and disbelief. The man's strength was overwhelming, but Chike's agility kept him in check. In the chaos, a small envelope fell from the intruder's pocket. Tola snatched it up and quickly read the message inside. "Stop now, or everyone you care about will die." The intruder finally broke free, vanishing into the night, leaving Tola and Chike shaken. When Tola looked down at the USB drive, she realized it had been tampered with, and a second message blinked on her laptop. "We know you have it." Tola's hands trembled as she plugged the USB drive into her laptop. The screen flickered, and a folder appeared, labeled simply, "Truth." She clicked it open, heart pounding. Inside were photos, videos, and documents detailing the murder she had witnessed. But it wasn't just a random crime, it was connected to a powerful criminal network operating in Lagos. Names, locations, and transactions filled the files. Her stomach churned. This was bigger than she had imagined. Chike leaned over her shoulder. "This is why they're after you. That alley wasn't random. The victim, he had information they couldn't risk being exposed." Tola swallowed hard. "So I'm a target now?" Chike nodded gravely. "And it's only going to get worse. We need to figure out who's next and why you were there. But first, we have to verify this information carefully." As Tola scrolled through the files, she noticed something alarming, a familiar name on one of the documents. Her heart skipped a beat. It was someone she knew, someone she had trusted. A new email appeared on her screen from an unknown sender. "You shouldn't have opened that. Now you'll pay." Tola's fingers froze over the keyboard as she read the email. The threat was clear, someone was watching her every move. But it was the name in the USB files that made her stomach twist. It was Obinna, her coworker and friend for years. The man she had shared lunches with, laughed with, and confided in, was tied to the murder and the criminal network. "Chike, it's Obinna," Tola whispered, her voice trembling. Chike's eyes widened. "That explains a lot. He's close to the top. And now he knows you have the files." Tola's mind raced. How could she have trusted him? And worse, if he suspected she had evidence, she and anyone close to her were in immediate danger. Her phone buzzed violently. A text appeared from Obinna's number, though she knew it could have been fate. "Stop digging, Tola. You don't know who you're dealing with." Panic surged through her, but beneath it, determination ignited. She couldn't back down now, not when the truth was within her grasp. That night, a car slowly rolled past her window. In the driver's seat, Tola recognized a figure she never expected, staring directly at her. Tola pressed herself against the wall, holding her breath as the car idled silently outside. The streetlight glinted off the windshield, and her heart skipped a beat when she recognized the figure behind the wheel, Obinna. He sat perfectly still, eyes locked on her window. Tola felt a wave of fear and betrayal wash over her. This was the man she had called a friend, the one she had laughed with in the office. And now he was watching her like a predator stalking prey. Chike's voice was a low whisper behind her. "We need to move. He knows we have the USB. Staying here isn't safe." Tola's mind raced. She couldn't risk taking the drive or the files outside, they'd be spotted, but she also knew she couldn't stay. Every second they lingered, Obinna grew bolder. She grabbed her bag, the USB clutched tightly, and nodded to Chike. Together, they slipped out the back door, hearts pounding, into the narrow alley that would hopefully hide them from view. As they turned the corner, a shadow fell across their path, another figure blocking their escape, arms crossed, and a menacing smile. Tola froze as the shadow stepped fully into the alley. A tall, muscular man loomed before them, arms crossed, face hidden beneath a hood. His presence radiated danger, and Tola felt her stomach knot. Chike positioned himself slightly in front of her. "Who are you?" he demanded, trying to sound confident. The man's voice was low and cold. "Call me Kazim. Obinna sent me to make sure you don't leave with that USB. Hand it over." Tola's heart pounded. They were trapped. Every route she had memorized was blocked. If she tried to run, this stranger would catch them in seconds. Chike's eyes flicked to hers. "We can't fight him head on. We need a plan." Tola glanced around the alley, desperate. There was a ladder to a fire escape, but it was slick with rain. She had seconds to decide risk climbing or face Kazim directly. Before she could react, Kazim lunged forward, and Tola stumbled, barely catching herself, only to find the alley behind them completely sealed by another shadowy figure. Tola's heart raced as she realized the alley had become a death trap. Two shadowy figures blocked every exit, their stances deliberate and threatening. Chike grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the slick fire escape ladder. "Up there," he whispered urgently. "It's our only chance." Tola's palms slipped on the wet metal rungs, but Chike steadied her, urging her higher. Behind them, Kazim barked a sharp command, and the sound of boots hitting the ground grew louder. As they climbed, Tola glimpsed another figure moving toward the alley entrance, blocking any reinforcements from escaping. Her stomach churned. Whoever these people were, they had been waiting for her. Finally, they reached the top of the ladder, breathless and soaked. Chike pulled her onto the rooftop, scanning the street below. "We're not safe yet," he said grimly. "We need to find somewhere to hide, somewhere he won't expect." Tola's mind raced. The USB held everything, evidence, secrets, the key to the murder case, but if they were caught now, it was over. A sudden flash of a spotlight illuminated the rooftop. Tola's blood ran cold as she saw Obinna's face staring up at them, grinning. Tola froze, clutching the USB as Obinna's face appeared in the spotlight, his grin widening. "Thought you could hide from me," he called, his voice carrying easily across the rooftops. Chike pulled her behind a vent, shielding her from view. "We need to move now," he whispered. "He won't wait long." Tola's mind raced. Every option seemed deadly. Jumping to the next building risked a fatal fall. Going back down the fire escape meant walking straight into Obinna's men. Suddenly, a shadow moved from the opposite side of the rooftop, a young man in dark clothing. He silently gestured to a side passage, almost invisible from Obinna's line of sight. "Who is that?" Tola murmured. Chike's eyes narrowed. "I don't know, but we don't have time to find out. Follow me." They sprinted toward the side passage, hearts hammering, Obinna shouted, and the spotlight swung dangerously close, almost catching them in its glare. As they disappeared into the narrow rooftop gap, a hand shot out from the shadows, grabbing Tola's wrist with a terrifying grip. Tola screamed as the hand yanked her backward. She struggled, kicking and twisting, but the grip was iron strong. Chike lunged to grab her, but another figure emerged from the shadows, forcing him back with a swift strike. The rooftop side passage offered no escape. Tola's heart pounded as she was dragged into a dark alcove, the night swallowing her cries. Her eyes struggled to adjust, but she could make out the silhouettes of two masked men and, in the center, Obina's unmistakable figure. "You really thought you could expose me?" he sneered. His voice was cold, dripping with menace. "Now you'll see the consequences of curiosity." Tola's mind raced. The USB, the evidence, everything she had fought to protect it was all at risk. She needed a plan, but fear clawed at her chest. Chike's muffled voice echoed from the rooftop edge. "Tola, don't let them..." Obina silenced the moment with a threatening gesture. "One more move, and your friend will regret it." Tola's eyes fell on a small, blinking device on Obina's belt. It was connected to the USB. He was about to destroy everything she had risked her life to save. Tola's gaze locked on the blinking device on Obina's belt. If it was destroyed, every piece of evidence, the photos, videos, and documents exposing his network, would vanish forever. Panic surged, but she forced herself to think. "Stop! You don't know what you're doing!" she yelled, trying to buy time. Obina's head tilted, amused. Chike's voice cut through the tension from the rooftop. "Tola now!" Tola realized she had one chance. Summoning courage, she kicked backward, hitting one of the masked men in the knee. The sudden movement distracted them enough for her to grab the USB from her bag with a quick swipe. Obina's face darkened. "Give it back!" he roared, lunging at her. She ducked, sprinting toward a narrow stairwell at the rooftop's edge, USB clutched tightly. Chike jumped down to assist, taking out the masked men with swift strikes. Just as Tola reached the stairwell, a loud click echoed behind her. Obina had pulled out a gun, aimed directly at her. Tola froze, her chest tightening as the cold metal of Obina's gun aimed straight at her. She clutched the USB to her chest, heart hammering in panic. "Stop right there!" Obina shouted, stepping closer, his eyes blazing with fury. "Hand it over, and maybe I'll let you live." Chike grabbed her arm, whispering urgently. "Listen to me. Don't panic. Follow my lead." Tola swallowed her fear. In one swift motion, she threw the USB into the stairwell below, creating a brief distraction. Obina instinctively lunged for it, giving Tola the chance to bolt. She ran blindly down the stairs, Chike close behind her. Shots rang out, echoing through the stairwell, narrowly missing her. Tola's legs burned, but fear propelled her forward. She had to survive. She had to protect the evidence. They finally burst out into the alley below, gasping for breath, hearts pounding like drums. But the sound of a car engine behind them made her blood run cold. Obina was not letting them escape. Tola turned a corner and came face to face with a wall of armed men, blocking every exit. Tola's heart thudded painfully as she saw the armed men blocking the alley. There was no escape, walls of iron and gun barrels glinting in the dim streetlight. Chike's hand gripped hers tightly. "We have to think fast," he whispered. "We can't fight them head on. We'll be dead in seconds." Tola's eyes scanned the surroundings desperately. An old maintenance door caught her attention, partially hidden behind stacked crates. It might lead to another street or a hidden passage. Chike nodded toward it. "That's our only shot. On my mark, run." The men noticed them moving. Shouts rang out. Bullets whizzed past, narrowly missing their heads. Tola's chest burned as adrenaline pushed her forward. Together, they dashed toward the hidden door, ducking and weaving. They slammed it open, stumbling into a narrow corridor filled with pipes and shadows. The sound of their pursuers faded slightly, but Tola knew it was only temporary. As they caught their breath, Tola's eyes fell on a figure emerging from the darkness. A person she thought was long gone. And now, they were coming for her. Tola's eyes widened as the figure stepped fully into the dim corridor. It was the victim from the alley, or at least someone who looked exactly like him. Her breath caught in her throat. Who are you?" she stammered, clutching the USB tightly. "The man or his twin?" smiled grimly. "I've been in hiding. My death was staged to protect me from Obina's network. And now, it seems you've stumbled right into the middle of it." Chike's jaw tightened. "Wait, so he's alive? That means everything we've been dealing with is bigger than we thought." Tola's mind raced. The murder she witnessed wasn't random. It was a calculated move to eliminate someone who knew too much. And now she realized that the people she thought were dangerous might only be the tip of the iceberg. The man's eyes softened slightly as he looked at Tola. If you want to survive and bring justice, you'll need my help. But first, we have to disappear before Obina finds us again. Just as relief flickered in Tola's chest, a loud crashing sound echoed from the corridor behind them, and Obina himself stepped into view, smiling coldly. Tola froze, her stomach twisting as Obina's tall figure blocked the corridor. His cold grin sent a shiver down her spine. Behind him, the shadows of his men crept forward, surrounding them. "You really think you can run from me?" Obina hissed. "The USB, the files, they belong to me." Chike stepped in front of Tola, fists clenched. "You're not getting it. We're not afraid of you." Obina's laugh echoed off the walls, harsh and mocking. "Afraid? You should be terrified. Every move you've made has been watched. Every step, predicted. And now, you've trapped yourselves." Tola's mind raced. They were outnumbered, cornered, and her instincts screamed danger. But she knew they couldn't back down, not now. Not after everything she had seen. Then, a flicker of movement caught her eye. The man she thought was dead, the victim, slipped silently behind Obina's men. He gestured subtly to Tola and Chike. In a daring move, Tola realized they had one chance to strike, but if they failed, there would be no tomorrow. Tola's heart pounded as she realized their only chance was to act immediately. She nodded to Chike and the man she thought was dead. Together, they moved silently, blending with the shadows. Obina's men remained unaware of the trio's positioning. Tola's mind raced. Every second counted. One wrong move, and the USB and their lives would be gone. Chike whispered, "On my mark, run for the side exit. I'll distract them." Tola clenched the USB, her palms sweaty. The victim twin nodded, signaling he would take down any man trying to intercept them. Chike took a bold step forward, throwing a smoke grenade he had snatched from his bag. Chaos erupted as thick smoke filled the corridor. Obina's men coughed and flailed blindly. Tola and the twin dashed toward the side exit, adrenaline surging through their veins. Bullets ricocheted around them, the sound deafening, but somehow they managed to slip through a narrow doorway leading to a hidden alley. Just as they believed they had escaped, Tola froze. At the end of the alley stood a car, headlights glaring, and Obina himself stepped out, grinning like a predator closing in on his prey. Tola's heart raced as Obina advanced from the car, his grin widening with every step. Chike grabbed her arm, yanking her into the shadows of the alley. "We have to move now," he hissed. They sprinted through the narrow lanes, ducking behind dumpsters and dodging broken fences. The sound of Obina's footsteps echoed off the walls, relentless, terrifying. Tola clutched the USB like her life depended on it, because it did. Ahead, a rusted fire escape offered a risky escape route. Chike pointed upward. "Up there! We can lose him on the rooftops!" Tola scrambled after him, adrenaline propelling her forward. Their boots clanged against metal stairs as Obina's voice shouted threats from below, promising death if they didn't surrender. Finally, on the rooftops, they paused to catch their breath. The city sprawled beneath them, lights flickering in the distance, but safety was fleeting. Obina wasn't far behind. He had men stationed on nearby rooftops, cutting off obvious escape routes. As Tola peered over the edge, she realized the only path forward was a daring jump to the next rooftop, over a 10-foot gap, with the risk of falling into the dark alley below. Tola's heart pounded as she stared at the gap between the rooftops. 10 feet of darkness yawned before her, the alley far below threatening a deadly fall. Chike grasped her arm. "You can do this. Trust yourself." Taking a deep breath, Tola ran toward the edge. She felt the wind whip against her face, her legs burning with tension. The world seemed to slow as she pushed off, soaring through the night air. Her fingers barely caught the ledge of the next rooftop. She grunted, pulling herself up with every ounce of strength. Chike followed, leaping with precision, landing beside her with a heavy thud. For a brief moment, they were safe high above the city, away from Obina's immediate reach. But safety was temporary. Shadows shifted on nearby rooftops, and the distant sound of footsteps told them Obina's men weren't far behind. Tola clutched the USB tightly, realizing the night's ordeal was far from over. Every second counted, and one misstep could mean everything: her life, the evidence, and the chance to bring Obina to justice. A sudden shout echoed from the rooftop behind them. Obina had anticipated their move, and he was closing in faster than they could run. Tola's breath came in sharp gasps as she spun around. Obina's figure emerged from the shadows, moving with terrifying precision. His eyes gleamed with a predator's focus, and behind him, two of his men appeared on the adjacent rooftop. "We can't fight them head-on," Chike whispered, his jaw tense. "We need a plan fast." Tola scanned their surroundings. The rooftops were narrow, littered with rusted vents and broken tiles, providing few hiding spots. But she noticed a ladder leading down to a fire escape 2 buildings away. Chike nodded. "We make a break for that ladder on my signal." Adrenaline surged as Obina's men closed the distance. Bullets ricocheted against the walls, forcing Tola to duck behind a ventilation shaft. She clutched the USB to her chest, praying it remained safe. As Chike signaled, they sprinted, leaping over gaps and dodging gunfire. Their hearts pounded in unison. Just as they reached the ladder, a rope suddenly shot from above, wrapping around Tola's legs and yanking her backward. Obina had set a trap she didn't see coming. Tola screamed as the rope yanked her backward, nearly pulling her off balance. Chike lunged to grab her, but Obina's men had anticipated this move, blocking his reach. Her heart pounded, fear clawing at every nerve. The rope tightened around her legs, pinning her to the rooftop edge. Bullets whizzed past, ricocheting off nearby walls, sending shards of concrete and rusted metal flying. "Don't panic!" Chike shouted, his voice tense but controlled. "You can fight this." Tola wriggled, kicking and pulling, but the rope was strong. Desperation fueled her. With a burst of strength, she managed to grab a loose pipe from the rooftop and used it to pry the rope from its anchor. She tumbled onto the roof, gasping for air. Chike extended his hand, pulling her to her feet. The rooftop was slick with rain, and Obina's men were closing in fast. As they bolted toward the next building, a shadow fell across their path, a figure holding a gun, blocking the only escape route. And Tola recognized the person immediately. Tola's stomach sank as she saw the figure blocking their path. It was the man she had thought was dead, the victim from the alley. But his eyes were cold, not the desperate plea of someone in hiding. You were alive?" Tola gasped, clutching the USB tighter. He smiled, a chilling twist to his expression. "Alive, yes, but not your friend. Obina and I, we have mutual interests now." Chike's face darkened. "You tricked us!" he shouted, stepping forward. The man laughed. "You've been useful, but now it's time for you to step aside. Hand over the USB." Tola's heart pounded. The files, the evidence, they couldn't fall into Obina's hands. Every ounce of her determination flared. She refused to give up now. As the man raised his weapon, ready to strike, Tola spotted a narrow pipe overhead, a possible escape. Cliffhanger. With no time to hesitate, Tola grabbed Chike's hand and leapt toward the pipe, narrowly avoiding a gunshot that shattered the rooftop tiles behind them. Tola and Chike clung to the rusted pipe overhead, swinging across the gap between the rooftops. Every second was tense. One slip would send them plummeting into the alley below. The wind whipped at their faces as rain soaked through their clothes, adding to the danger. Behind them, the traitorous victim shouted threats, waving his gun. Bullets ricocheted off the building, sending sparks flying dangerously close to their feet. "Keep moving," Chike urged. "We're almost there." Tola's arms burned, but determination pushed her forward. She swung with all her strength, landing on the next rooftop with a painful thud. Chike followed, and they barely had time to catch their breath. As they scanned the area, they saw a narrow alley leading to a darkened side street, potentially a route to safety. But the rain-slick streets offered no cover, and they knew Obina's men were still hunting them. Just as they began descending toward the alley, a car skidded around the corner, tires squealing, and headlights blinded them inside. Obina himself smiled, waiting. Tola's eyes widened as the car screeched to a halt, Obina stepping out with a chilling grin. His presence radiated control and danger, the rain glinting off his soaked clothes. Chike positioned himself in front of Tola. "Stay behind me," he warned, tension etched across his face. Obina laughed, his voice echoing through the narrow street. "Running won't save you. Hand over the USB, and maybe I'll let you walk away." Tola clenched the USB tightly. "Never," she spat, anger and fear fueling her courage. Obina's smile twisted into a snarl. "Very well. Then this ends tonight." Chike's hand brushed hers briefly, a silent promise that they would face this together. Around them, the wet streets reflected the headlights, creating a surreal, tense atmosphere. Suddenly, the car's trunk popped open, revealing stacks of weapons and reinforcements pouring out. Obina wasn't alone, and the fight for survival was about to escalate. Tola's heart raced as Obina's reinforcements poured onto the rain-slick street, weapons drawn and ready. Chike positioned himself strategically, pulling Tola behind a stack of crates for cover. "Keep the USB safe," he shouted over the chaos. "We have to get to higher ground." Bullets ricocheted off walls, sparks flying dangerously close. Tola's palms ached as she gripped the USB, praying it wouldn't be taken from her. Every step forward was a calculated risk. Obina moved like a predator through the rain, his eyes never leaving Tola. She realized he was more dangerous than she had imagined, precise, relentless, and merciless. Chike grabbed her hand. "Follow me. We can lose them in the rooftops if we move now." With a deep breath, Tola sprinted with him, dodging gunfire and leaping over obstacles, hearts pounding in unison. As they reached the rooftop edge, Tola froze in horror. The next building's roof was already swarming with Obina's men, and one of them raised a gun with deadly accuracy. Tola's chest heaved as she and Chike froze at the edge of the rooftop. Obina's men were swarming the next building, weapons aimed, ready to end this chase once and for all. "We have to fight," Chike whispered. "There's no other way." Summoning every ounce of courage, Tola nodded. She clutched the USB tightly. It was the key to exposing Obina's criminal empire. Together, they leapt across the rooftop gap, landing hard but determined. Obina stepped forward, gun raised, and for a moment, the world seemed to slow. Rain poured down, thunder crashing around them as Tola realized she had to act quickly. With a swift motion, she threw the USB into a nearby crate, breaking its case, and used the distraction to disarm Obina. A struggle ensued, fierce and desperate. Chike tackled one of Obina's men while Tola fought for control of the gun. Finally, Obina slipped on the wet surface, and Tola's quick thinking forced him into submission. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Chike had called them earlier, and backup had arrived. Obina and his network were arrested, the evidence secured, and Tola finally breathed, exhausted but victorious. Tola looked at the USB, realizing the secrets it contained were only the tip of the iceberg. Someone else was still out there, watching and waiting. Tola sat in her apartment, exhausted but alive. The USB rested on her desk, its secrets now partially exposed to the authorities. News of Obina's arrest had hit Lagos, but the city still felt unsafe. Chike poured them both a cup of tea, trying to calm the tension. "You did it," he said softly. "We survived." Tola nodded, but a shiver ran down her spine. The feeling of being watched hadn't left her. She glanced at the window, nothing, just the city lights. Then her phone buzzed. A new message appeared from an unknown number. "You think it's over? You've only uncovered the surface. We're still here, watching." Tola's heart skipped a beat. She realized that while one battle had ended, the war was far from over. Danger still lurked in the shadows, and someone even more powerful than Obina was pulling the strings. Tola clenched her fists, determination flashing in her eyes. She would survive and uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Ola couldn't sleep. The unknown message from the night before burned in her mind. Someone was still watching her. Someone smarter, someone patient. Chike paced the room, tension evident. We need to find out who sent that message. If Obina wasn't the top, then we're still in danger. Tola opened the USB again, scanning the files for anything they might have missed. Hidden within the documents were names, locations, and encrypted notes that hinted at a larger criminal network more powerful and far-reaching than Obina's gang. A sudden noise at the window made her jump. She spun around, heart racing, but the street below appeared empty. A shadow flickered briefly, disappearing into the night. Tola swallowed hard. She realized that surviving Obina was only the beginning. The real enemy was still out there, and they were closer than she thought. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a video. A masked figure holding the USB, smiling directly at her camera. You're playing with fire, Tola, and now, we play your game. Tola's hands shook as she replayed the video. The masked figure's words echoed in her mind. We play your game. Whoever this was, they had taken the USB, or at least a copy, and now controlled the next move. Chike leaned over her shoulder. We can't wait. If they're this bold, they'll strike again. We need to track them before they make their next move. Tola nodded, determination hardening in her eyes. She began tracing the metadata from the video, cross-referencing names, locations, and IP addresses. Every clue led deeper into Lagos's criminal underworld. Hours passed as they worked, piecing together fragments of information. Finally, a breakthrough appeared. A location on the outskirts of the city. Marked only as a warehouse on an encrypted map, Chike exhaled sharply. This could be it, the place they're operating from, but it's risky. We don't know how many of them are there, or what traps they've set. Tola swallowed hard. We have no choice. We go now, or we wait to be hunted. As they prepared to leave, a black SUV screeched to a halt outside her apartment. Tires spraying rainwater and a masked figure leapt out, holding a gun aimed directly at them. The masked figure stormed into Tola's apartment, gun raised, and shouted, "Hand over the USB!" Tola dove behind the table, heart hammering, while Chike lunged to tackle the intruder. Shots rang out, ricocheting off walls. Papers flew, and rain from the open window drenched the floor, adding chaos to the scene. Tola grabbed a heavy lamp, swinging it at the intruder. The figure staggered, giving Chike just enough time to wrestle him to the ground. But there were more. Tola could hear footsteps and muffled voices outside. Chike whispered urgently, "We need to move now. They'll send reinforcements." Tola nodded, clutching the USB tightly. They dashed toward the fire escape, narrowly avoiding another volley of gunfire. Her mind raced, thinking of every possible trap the new enemy could have set. As they reached the street, the black SUV reappeared, tires screeching as it blocked their path. The masked figure climbed back in, signaling others inside. The SUV doors burst open, revealing multiple armed figures, and at the wheel, a silhouette Tola recognized all too well. Tola's blood ran cold as the silhouette at the wheel of the SUV stepped out. Her eyes widened in shock. It was Obina's older brother, Eze, a man she had heard about but never met. Known for being ruthless and cunning, he had stayed in the shadows while Obina ran the smaller operations. Now, he had emerged, and his gaze was fixed on her like a predator. Eze's smile was cold and calculating. "I see you've been busy, little Tola," he said, voice calm but dripping with menace. "You've ruined my brother's plans, and now, it's time to deal with you personally." Chike moved in front of Tola, fists clenched, ready to defend her. "We won't let you win," he shouted. Eze's laugh echoed through the street. "Win? I've already won. Everything you thought was under control was just a part of my game." Tola felt a chill. The threat she faced was far bigger and more dangerous than she ever imagined. Eze raised his hand, signaling his men, and in that moment, Tola realized the only way to survive was to take the fight directly to him, even if it meant risking everything. Tola ducked behind a parked car, heart racing. The streets were tense, the rain-soaked asphalt reflecting the headlights of Azi's approaching SUV and his armed men. Chike whispered urgently, "We can't fight them head-on. Too many of them. We need a plan. Something unexpected." Tola thought quickly. "There's a construction site nearby. Scaffolding, crates, high ground. We can use it to our advantage. We can lure them in, split them up." Chike nodded. "It's risky. One wrong move, and we're done. But it might be our only shot." They moved silently, ducking through alleyways until they reached the construction site. Tola set small traps, loose planks, ropes, and unstable crates to slow down their pursuers. Every step was calculated, every movement precise. From above, they could see Easy observing them, his men spread across the site like predators. The tension was unbearable, every second stretching longer than the last. Tola exhaled, gripping the USB. Just as they were about to spring their trap, a spotlight hit them from above, and Easy's voice boomed. "I've been expecting you." The spotlight pinned Tola and Chike in place, rain glistening off the metal scaffolding around them. Easy's men fanned out, weapons raised, moving silently like predators. Tola swallowed her fear. "Now, Chike, execute the plan." Chike nodded. With precise timing, Tola tripped the first rope, sending a stack of crates crashing down, blocking part of Aze's advance. Bullets ricocheted against metal beams as the ambush began. Eze moved quickly, remaining calm despite the chaos. "Impressive, but predictable," he said, signaling his men. They flanked the couple, forcing them further into the maze of scaffolding. Tola ducked behind a pillar, breathing heavily, gripping the USB. She saw an opening, a precarious walkway above the main floor. "We can use that," she whispered to Chike. As they climbed, one of Easy's men lunged at Tola from below. She barely dodged, stumbling on the narrow planks. Above, the walkway gave way under Chike's weight, sending him crashing toward the ground and leaving Tola alone, facing Easy's deadly grin. Tola's heart slammed against her ribs as she watched Chike crash to the ground below. Pain, fear, and adrenaline collided inside her. She clutched the USB tightly, losing it was not an option. Easy's grin widened as he approached the unstable walkway. "Alone now, little Tola. Let's see how clever you really are." Tola scanned the site frantically. Metal beams, loose scaffolding, and crates littered the ground. She needed to use them. A sudden idea struck her. She grabbed a long chain from a nearby pile of construction materials. Timing her movements carefully, she swung the chain like a whip, knocking over a stack of crates. The noise and chaos slowed Easy's approach, giving her precious seconds. Her mind raced. She needed to reach the upper catwalk, where she could regain the advantage and protect the USB. Every step was calculated. One slip meant disaster. As Tola lunged toward the catwalk, Easy raised his gun and a single shot rang out, narrowly missing her chest, sending sparks into the wet metal around her. Tola's chest heaved, soaked rain plastering her hair to her face. The shot from Easy's gun had narrowly missed her, but fear had transformed into adrenaline-fueled determination. She couldn't fail now. Glancing around, she spotted a loose pulley system above the catwalk. With precise timing, she grabbed it, yanking it down to swing herself across the scaffolding. Sparks flew as her metal boots scraped against the wet beams. Azi's eyes followed every move, calculating, waiting for her to slip. "Clever, but not enough," he sneered. Tola landed on the catwalk, using the high ground to her advantage. She hurled a heavy beam at Eze's feet, causing him to stumble and lose balance momentarily. Chike, groaning from the ground below, managed to crawl toward her. Tola extended her hand. "Grab on! We finish this together." Chike grabbed her hand, and together they climbed to the upper platform, positioning themselves above Easy and his men. Tola steadied her aim at Easy, realizing this was the moment she either stopped him for good or everything would collapse around them. Tola and Chike stood on the upper platform, hearts pounding, rain pouring over them. Ise and his men scrambled below, guns raised, unaware that they now held the advantage. Tola gritted her teeth. "We end this now," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. Chike nodded, covering her flank. With swift precision, Tola hurled crates and beams to block Ise's men, forcing them into confined spaces. Sparks flew as metal collided with metal, creating chaos and confusion. Ise's grin faltered. "You think you can beat me?" he yelled, his voice cutting through the storm. Tola didn't reply. She swung a heavy chain, knocking Ise off balance. Chike leapt, tackling one of the armed men below. The fight became a blur of movement, rain, and adrenaline. Finally, with one calculated maneuver, Tola forced Eze to the ground, pressing her makeshift weapon against him. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Reinforcements Chike had called earlier were closing in. Ise smirked, even as he was restrained, whispering, "You think this is over? It's only the beginning." Tola watched as police secured Eze and his men. Rain dripped from her hair, but her mind was racing faster than ever. Ise's chilling words echoed, "It's only the beginning." Chike approached, exhausted. "He's in custody, but you're right. There's something bigger. Look at the files you recovered. They point to more locations, more names, a network spanning the city." Tola opened the USB, scanning the encrypted documents. Dark web transactions, offshore accounts, and coded messages suggested Ise was merely one branch of a larger, more dangerous organization. Her heart sank. Obina's gang had been the surface. Now, the real enemy was deeper, more hidden, and far more powerful. Chike placed a hand on her shoulder. "We survived, Ise, but surviving this will be even harder." Tola clenched the USB, resolve hardening. "Then we don't wait for them to strike. We find them first, every last one of them." As they prepared their next move, a sudden alert on Tola's phone displayed a live feed. A masked figure standing in the shadows, watching them through hidden cameras. Ola froze as the live feed played on her phone. A masked figure stood in a dimly lit room, observing her and Chike through a network of hidden cameras. Every move they had made was being watched. Chike leaned in, frowning. "They've been tracking us all along. Someone more organized than Eze. We can't underestimate them." Tola's mind raced. "We need to find their location now. If they know where we are, the entire network could strike at once." She pulled up the video metadata, noticing a faint signal trail. It pointed to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Lagos. "This is it," she whispered. "Our next target." Chike nodded. "We prepare carefully. No mistakes this time." As they gathered equipment and planned their approach, Tola couldn't shake the feeling that someone was closer than the camera suggested, watching their every move in real time. Just as they finished preparations, the lights in Tola's apartment flickered, and the masked figure appeared on the screen again, this time closer, as if inside the building itself. Tola's heart skipped a beat as the lights flickered violently. Chike grabbed her hand, whispering, "Stay calm. Someone's inside." From the shadows, footsteps echoed. The masked figure was no longer just on the screen. They had somehow breached the apartment. Rain pounded against the windows as if nature itself sensed the looming danger. Tola clutched the USB to her chest. "We can't let them take this," she said, her voice steady despite the fear. Chike nodded, signaling her to follow him toward a hidden exit behind a wardrobe. But before they could move, the intruder stepped into the room, blocking their path. "You shouldn't have run," the masked figure said, voice low and threatening. "This ends tonight." Tola's mind raced. There was no time for hesitation. Improvisation was their only chance. She noticed a heavy curtain rod nearby. With a swift motion, she swung it at the figure, buying them precious seconds. The masked figure stumbled back, but from behind, another shadow emerged, this one holding a gun aimed directly at Chike. Chike froze as the second shadow stepped forward, gun aimed squarely at him. Tola's eyes darted around the room, searching for anything to use as a weapon. She grabbed a heavy vase, hurling it at the intruder. It shattered on impact, causing a brief distraction. Chike lunged at the armed figure, knocking the gun to the floor. A violent struggle ensued, hands grappling and bodies crashing into furniture. Tola didn't waste a second. She swung the curtain rod at the first masked figure, forcing them to stagger backward. Rainwater from the broken window leaked across the floor, making footing treacherous. The room became a blur of movement, sweat, and adrenaline. Tola realized they had only one chance escape through the small service door leading to the alley outside. Just as they sprinted toward the exit, Tola tripped over debris, falling hard, and the first masked figure lunged toward her with a knife glinting under the dim light. Tola hit the ground hard, pain shooting through her leg. The masked figure lunged toward her with a knife, but Chike dove just in time, pushing her out of harm's way. Adrenaline surged through her veins as they scrambled to their feet. Rain-slicked alleyways stretched before them, shadows twisting in the dim streetlights. Every corner could hide another enemy. "We have to keep moving!" Chike shouted, grabbing Tola's arm. Tola nodded, gritting her teeth against the pain. They sprinted down narrow paths, weaving through debris and puddles. Behind them, shouts and footsteps echoed reinforcements from the masked network were pursuing. Tola clutched the USB tightly. If they lost it, everything they had fought for would be for nothing. As they rounded a corner, a black van screeched to a halt ahead, blocking their escape, and the sliding door opened, revealing multiple armed figures with weapons trained on them. Tola and Chike skidded to a halt as the black van blocked the alley. Rain poured down, soaking their clothes, their breaths coming in short, sharp gasps. The sliding door opened slowly, revealing several armed figures, weapons glinting in the dim light. At the center, the masked figure who had infiltrated their safe house stood confidently, watching them with chilling calm. "Going somewhere?" the figure taunted, voice echoing off the walls. Chike stepped protectively in front of Tola. "We're not giving you the USB." The masked figure tilted their head. "You'll regret that." Tola's eyes scanned the van and surrounding area, searching for any advantage. She noticed a stack of crates nearby. If used strategically, they could create cover or a path to escape. The attackers advanced slowly, forcing Tola and Chike to retreat inch by inch. Every step was calculated, every move critical. Suddenly, a tire exploded on the van, sending sparks flying, and in the chaos, Tola realized the masked figure had vanished, leaving only a sinister laugh echoing in the rain-soaked alley. Tola and Chike crouched behind the crates, hearts still racing from the tire explosion. Smoke and sparks filled the alley, masking the van and its occupants. "They're gone. For now," Chike whispered, scanning the area. "But that laugh, it means they're close, and they know exactly where we are." Tola's hands shook as she clutched the USB. "We can't let them take this," she said firmly. "We need a plan to find the masked figure before they strike again." Her mind raced through every piece of intel they had gathered. The masked figure was clever, patient, and always one step ahead. Tola realized that to catch them, she would have to think like her enemy, anticipate their moves, and strike first. As the rain poured down, she pulled out her phone and traced the van's tire tracks through the slick streets. A faint clue appeared: an abandoned warehouse near the outskirts, marked by signs of recent activity. Before they could move, Tola's phone buzzed with an incoming video. The masked figure was inside the warehouse, holding the USB and smiling at the camera. "You're getting closer, but not close enough," they whispered. Tola's jaw tightened as she watched the video. The masked figure was inside the warehouse, USB in hand, taunting them with every frame. Chike placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "This is it. We go in, we get the USB, and we end this once and for all." They moved through the rain, soaked streets, avoiding open areas, and approached the warehouse silently. Shadows loomed large, crates and metal beams offering both cover and danger. Tola's mind raced with plans, traps, misdirection, and distraction. Every step forward was calculated. She clutched the USB tightly, knowing failure was not an option. From the roof of the warehouse, a faint silhouette appeared. The masked figure was watching them, predicting their every move. Tola's pulse quickened. As they slipped inside the warehouse through a side entrance, the lights flickered on, revealing dozens of armed figures surrounding them and the masked figures stepping out from the shadows, smiling menacingly. Tola and Chike froze as the warehouse lights blazed on. Dozens of armed figures surrounded them, crates and machinery casting long, menacing shadows. The masked figure stepped forward, USB in hand, exuding control and menace. Chike whispered, "We need to create chaos. Separate them." Tola nodded, spotting a stack of barrels nearby. With a nod to Chike, she hurled a barrel, sending sparks flying as it collided with machinery. Shouts erupted, and confusion spread among the masked figures. Bullets ricocheted around them. Chike tackled an approaching thug, while Tola sprinted toward the masked figure, ducking behind crates and leaping over debris. The masked figure smirked. "You've come so far, only to fall here." Tola gritted her teeth, swinging a heavy metal pipe, narrowly knocking the USB from their grasp. She lunged, catching it midair. The masked figure drew a concealed knife, advancing on Tola, and she realized this might be her final confrontation. Tola's muscles tensed as the masked figure advanced, knife glinting in the dim warehouse lights. Rainwater dripped from the broken roof, making every step treacherous. Chike moved to flank the figure, creating a distraction. With a burst of courage, Tola swung the metal pipe, forcing the masked figure to stumble. In that instant, she lunged forward, grabbing the USB and knocking the knife aside. The fight became a blur of quick movements, desperate strikes, and adrenaline-fueled precision. Finally, Chike tackled the masked figure, pinning them to the ground. Tola's hands shook as she ripped off the mask, revealing Easy's second-in-command, a cunning mastermind she had never seen before, the true architect behind the network. Police sirens blared and the distance backup Chike had called arrived, securing the remaining criminals. Tola clutched the USB tightly, exhausted but triumphant. She looked at Chike. "It's over, for now." Chike nodded. "For now, but we exposed the network. The city is safer because of you." Tola stared at the USB, realizing the secrets it held were only a fragment of a larger world of corruption. One thing was certain: courage, determination, and clever thinking could overcome even the most dangerous enemies, but vigilance would always be necessary. Grumpy Folktales Africa is a collection of long, short stories that reimagine traditional African folktales with a focus on grumpy characters and their eventual transformations. The series aims to entertain while imparting moral lessons through humor and relatable situations. Like stories with meaning? Subscribe to Grumpy Folktales Africa. Like, comment, and share now.